You know my next guest from his regular appearances on Special Report with Bret Baier, as well as his syndicated conservative column. But did you know that Charles Krauthammer wasn't always into politics? And he wasn't always a conservative. That's right. He's the author of the #1 book on the New York Times bestsellers list, Things That Matter. Charles joins us now. Charles, great to have you here. Thank you so much. We see you always with these very strong and bold and clear, sometimes edgy comments about politics. There's a lot more to Charles Krauthammer than politics. Most people probably don't know you're really into baseball. How did that become such an interest to you?
Well, you know, part of the book is about the things I find elegant and beautiful in life. I write about chess, I write about baseball, I write about space, I write about a lot of things. And in fact, my original intention, Governor, was to write a book that was called There's More to Life Than Politics, and do nothing but those kinds of things. And, you know, in the end, I decided I couldn't really do that. And it's for the same reason I left medicine, where I spent 7 years in my younger days, to become a writer and be involved in political discourse. And the reason is that in the end, politics, however grubby it is and grasping, and you know this, it can be very cynical and manipulative. For all of that, in the end, everything, all the lovely things in life, the high elements of our culture, the beauty, the excellence of human flourishing, all of that depends on getting the politics right. And those societies where they get the politics wrong, everything else dissolves. And that's sort of why I sort of changed my career. And it's also why I put a lot of the politics in the book, even though, as you say, I write about baseball and other kinds of things that show human excellence.
So I just want to clarify that you're one of the true Harvard Medical School graduates who did not quit medicine because of Obamacare, just to establish that.
But you know, it is funny how some of my classmates, I graduated way back in the 70s, they say to me, how did you know to get out of medicine 30 years ago?
Wow.
And the answer is I had no idea it was going to go downhill as badly as it is. I had no idea the pressures on doctors, how much more they have to work, how many more patients they have to see, how their payments have been reduced, how their autonomy has been attacked. And I had no idea, of course, of how badly it would become under Obamacare, where all of those trends are really accentuated. The reason I left was a very parochial, a very personal reason, is that even though medicine is a wonderfully noble life, I felt outside the walls of the hospital there was history going on. As I know you know, as your involvement in politics, you want to be involved in that because so much of other people's lives depend on getting it right.
This book, in many ways, I think, introduced people to who you are. I mean, they see you on Special Report. They know what you think. They know what you believe. They read your columns. But the personal side of Charles Krauthammer had never really been revealed like this. Was any of the reluctance to sort of open yourself up like that because of the background of psychiatry, that you want to analyze others but didn't really want to let others see you? Did that have anything to do with it at all?
Well, I'm not sure that that's the reason. I think it's because, you know, when I write my columns, I try not to use the word I. This is in contrast to a certain president of the United States who can't clear his throat without saying the word I. I mean, I don't know if you know if you...
Our audience certainly agrees with that assessment, Charles.
I mean, you know, I'll try to give him a break for at least 1 week here. But I find that my life is less interesting than what I write about, which is the world. So I try not to do that. But I did think, especially because, as you mentioned earlier, I started out as a doctor, because I started out in my 20s as a liberal, that, you know, everybody's allowed to change their mind. But if you're in public life, you have an obligation to explain why. So that's why I wrote the introduction of the book, a very long introduction that's essentially autobiographical, to try to explain those changes in my life, the vocational and the ideological, because I think I owed it to my readers.
Well, coming up, I'm going to ask Charles about what caused his transformation from liberal to conservative. That's worth staying around for. We'll be right back with the #1 New York Times bestselling author, Charles Krauthammer.